Hello all you turn-based tactical loving cosmonauts, as always I am Cosmic, and today we're going to be previewing Post-Human War, which is a turn-based tactical strategy game brought to you by Studio Chehut. The game is set after mankind's demise, whereby mankind has gone extinct at the start of the third millennium, and in its place three factions have risen to power. The first faction is the AI faction, and they are basically the descendants or the remnants of human civilization. They are all of the robots and AI appliances, I should say, that have been left behind after mankind went extinct, and their sole purpose is to protect the legacy of humankind. And this means that vacuum cleaners, for example, have repurposed themselves into cannoneers. You have killer fridges, you have, ovens that will slice and dice you, and all that kind of fun stuff. Then you have the two animal factions, and they are basically animal factions that have spawned from a new species, and a species arose while mankind was still polluting the earth with radioactive waste, and that gave birth to a new life form. That life form was able to take control of animals. At first they tried to appeal to humankind, but humans treated them badly, so they hid, and then after mankind went extinct they rose to power. At that point those animals split off into two factions. You have the faction that wants to basically destroy everything that mankind stood for and wants to destroy everything so there's no trace of human civilization left on the planet. And then you have the ones who want to basically pick up where human civilization left off, and they prefer to take over things like mammals, monkeys and that kind of thing, so that they can dress like humans and use things like humans did. And so that's the basic premise of the game. Those are the three factions. Now, as you can tell straight away, it is filled with humour. It does not take itself seriously at all, and that's a good thing. It is hilariously funny. There's a lot of good animations in there, especially kill animations, where you can kill something with a specific type of machine and it will turn it into a roast turkey. There's a lot of fun things in this game. It's filled with humour, doesn't take itself too seriously, and from a narrative perspective, it's, an enjoyable, fun, charming experience. Now, like I said, this is a turn-based strategy. The game is currently in early access, so it is still incomplete. It means that a lot of the story-driven campaigns are not in there yet, and a lot of the multiplayer modes aren't in there yet. The basics of the mechanics themselves work very well, and many turn-based strategy fans will be right at home here. You have the ability to move, and then you can move extra, which will cancel out your turn, or you can move and attack, and that's the basic premise of the controls. It's all tile based. You also have a system whereby you can pick up power points or energy points depending on which faction you are, and you can use those points to improve your soldiers on the battlefield, so you can give them extra health or extra damage or extra defense, that kind of thing. The one thing where I think the game lets itself down is that the fact that each of these unique troops and units don't have a lot of abilities themselves, and I think that it would have been really interesting for each individual unit to have a set of activated abilities that they could use with like a stamina bar or a power bar if you're the robots. And I think that would have just added a little bit extra layer of depth. Now, the game does have plenty of tactical depth in the sense that there are multiple units. Each units do different things. Each units have different ranged or melee attacks. You also are able to, like I said, upgrade them. Then you have the environmental factors. So you'll have obstacles to overcome. You will have radioactive waste pools. You will have units that fly. So there's a lot to consider when taking any given turn in the game. The problem is, like I said though, it does lack that little bit extra, I feel, in terms of, and that could have been solved by abilities. It just lacks that little bit extra just to make it really, really engaging, make sure that each unit feels even more unique than it already does, because a lot of the times all of the ranged units kind of do the same thing. They just attack from range. It would have been interesting to have a unit that attacked from range but did area damage, a unit that attacked from range and you can have an ability whereby, it transported itself somewhere else. Just something to really nailed down that level of depth that I think fans of strategy games are always looking for. There's a couple of good things about Post-Human War. The combat is fairly solid. The story campaigns, from what I've seen in the preview build, they're looking like they're fairly solid. It's basically a story campaign that centers around an individual unit, and then it takes you through what happens to them, and each specific mission usually has either similar objective in the terms of just destroy all the enemies or hold a point, or it sometimes can have the occasional unique objective. Then you have the multiplayer modes, which work very well. You can just play other players, and as a turn-based strategy multiplayer mode, it works fine. I think the problem where the game lets itself down is in the aesthetic. I absolutely love the animations and the character models, but the backgrounds look absolutely atrocious. It just looks ugly. It looks really cheap and ugly, and I'm not a big fan of those landscapes at all. I think it really is... I understand that they've tried to go for a unique art style, but at the same time, it's just made the game look really ugly, and it is just so visually unappealing from start to finish. Sound-wise, so far, I have to say it does make up where the visuals let it down. I absolutely love the voice acting in the game, what little there is of it. I think that the sounds that a lot of the units make, particularly on the robot side, are just hilarious. I love the vacuum cleaners. I love the French accented ovens and chefs. They're just fantastic. And there's just a lot of fun to be had with the sound effects here. All of the sound effects are really done well. I have to say I would have liked a little bit of a stronger soundtrack, but the soundtrack that is in play right now works very, very well. As an early access game, it does its job very well. I think it showcases the core of the game to the point where, at the end of the day, underneath the ugly, garish aesthetics of the game, you have actually a really mechanically solid turn-based strategy game that's charming and has a lot of humour in it. Like I said though, I think that they just need that little bit extra on the mechanical side to give it that boost it needs to make it really engaging. More maps are coming, as well as more customizations, and I think that customizations really does need to include maybe some abilities for units and that kind of thing. I think that it can only get better with the more options you give the player here. I wouldn't mind a redesign of the actual aesthetics and the visual design of the game. I think that the character models are great, like I said, but those maps do need a rework, and I think that, it needs to make the game look a little bit prettier, because it's really strange how when you look at any given situation, you have these character models, and they just don't really go with the actual landscape at all. And it's like the merging of two different art styles almost, and it just doesn't gel well at all. That being said though, I have to say that I really did enjoy my time with Post-Human War. I think it has the potential to be a good, nice little indie turn-based strategy that has a lot of fun, doesn't take itself too seriously, and does have some laugh-out-loud moments in there. On the multiplayer side, it could give it some longevity. However, I would say that for it to be able to give it that longevity that it needs, you would have to have some progression system in there, or some form of progression system at least, as well as the ability to have multiple game modes that aren't just team deathmatch. And that is our preview of Post-Human War. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what your thoughts are on the game in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, hit the like button, make sure to subscribe and share on social media, and as always, I will see you next time.